Hey guys, just want to let you guys know that this episode was recorded on Wednesday night, right after the World Series. The recording's fine right up until about the 21-minute mark when we get into the World Series. That's when things kind of go awry. There's some snap, crackle, pops. I apologize for that. So if you want to hear the recording in its entirety perfectly, then you can stop it right there. But if you want to listen to it, I don't think it's unlistenable. If I thought it was unlistenable, I would have completely just cut it out. But so here it is. Part one is all the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff and what we think and about the Niners and what we think this means for this season and next season. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes is all about the World Series. So if you're not big into baseball, then you can turn it off right there. I'll come in the middle and I'll let you guys know. I'll give you guys a heads up when we get to that spot. Anyways, here we go. GoldCast. The intro starts right now. Thanks for listening. Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by the death of the World Series for the Dodgers. Are you a Dodgers fan? Neither are we. So isn't it great? Isn't it great to be able to sit here and watch them lose in Game 7 at home against a team with an inferior bullpen? Gosh, I love it. So, for those Giants fans out here that watch the World Series, this one's for you. Raymond, before we get started, why don't you let them know, where can they find us?
You can like us at facebook.com/thegoldcast. You can also follow us on twitter.com at the Goldcast _, as well as Instagram at the Goldcast. You can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same name of the Goldcast. Follow, subscribe, stay on the up and up.
There it is. We've got a lot to get into after the intro. A tough 2 weeks for 49ers football, but then a ray of light coming off of the stunning trade of Jimmy Garoppolo from the New England Patriots over to the San Francisco 49ers. So much to talk about on the other side of the intro. Let's get busy.
San Francisco, are you ready? This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the faithful. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom! We've been gone for a couple weeks. My apologies. I was back and forth between San Francisco, Los Angeles. I was high flying, never dying, straight flying. I don't know what to rhyme with that. Anyways, I'm back. Ray, we're back. So 2 weeks ago, last we saw previously on the GoldCast, when we were here, CJ Beathard was our quarterback, and Brian Hoyer Still is. That's true. Brian Hoyer was benched to be his backup. He's not. He's no longer a part of the San Francisco 49ers. And then we go through two rough-ass games. So rough. But hold on, let's celebrate for one moment before we get into that. Because if you're listening to the GoldCast right now, you are part of the history of San Francisco. 7 championship appearances in 7 years. 5 rings. 2 dynasties. The very first one, the San Francisco 49er dynasty from 81 to 95, 5 Super Bowl championships. Steve Young, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, Bill Walsh, George Seifert. Just legends upon legends. Then in the early 2000s here, the Giants, they break a 50-year drought and win not 1, not 2, but 3 World Series rings on the backs of Timmy Lincecum, Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner, turning in arguably the greatest postseason clutch pitcher role in history. And then now we're capping off with the Golden State Warriors, who have gone from another team that gone from mediocrity, a team that ended a 40-year drought, has been to 3 straight championships, defeating LeBron James 2 out of 3, and is now back and on the quest for a 3rd ring for their dynasty. This is what you're a part of. This is San Francisco. Welcome to the GoldCast. So, Ray, let's get into Jimmy Garoppolo, man. First of all, what are your thoughts? I kind of felt like the team was starting to not believe in themselves. I felt like the team was falling apart. We had some key injuries this year to this week to the O-line that really did us in. I thought we had a pretty strong start against Wentz, and then things start to fall apart. And then there's an announcement that Jimmy Garoppolo has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. It's like bedlam. I mean, it was a crazy NFL trade deadline in general, the craziest I've ever seen. But let's start with Jimmy G, Ray. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? You're the greatest fanalist in the game. Drop it to the GoldCast Nation.
I thought it was a terrific move, considering that at the time that we made the pick, we had 9 picks. We gave up one of our extra second rounders because we had 2 second rounders. So we gave up one, so we didn't lose anything. We break even. We get a quarterback who's been learning and basically maturing under one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now in Tom Brady. And he's been doing it for 3 years. The quarterbacks that do this have done really, really well when they get the opportunity to start, as long as you have working pieces around them to help support his progress and his success. Case in point, Steve Young sat under Joe Montana for a very long time. Aaron Rodgers sat under Brett Favre for several years. And now Jimmy G, although rather than taking over inheriting the throne from Tom Brady, he actually gets traded to us just because it makes more logistical and financial sense. If you're coming from the Patriots side of things and from the Niners side of things, it makes great sense because now we get a much cheaper quarterback that allows us to manage our money better, and meaning that we don't necessarily have to go for a Kirk Cousins in the offseason. We can actually draft a quarterback late in the later rounds too, because we don't have to sit and put our first draft pick in a quarterback either. We can address some more pressing concerns like offensive line, linebacker, defensive back, areas that need help. We've already addressed the defensive line. We need that to kind of just grow and mature at this point. But linebacker is a glaring need now, especially the middle side of it. And Reuben Foster can't seem to stay healthy, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a continuing trend for him going forward. I'm optimistically skeptical, but I have a feeling he might fall into the same category as Eric Armstead, minus the lack of talent with Eric Armstead, who just can't seem to. Every time he gets a minute amount of progress, he ends up, sidelining himself and derailing his entire progress for that season. So I think he's on the chopping block. But anyways, getting back to Jimmy G, I think this is a terrific pick. Not only for the reasons I just stated, but also because this is somebody who's probably going to take some time to absorb the playbook that Kyle Shanahan has. And I think that his play style, his ability to be mobile, his ability to stay in the pocket is very similar to CJ Beathard in terms of can remain calm in the pocket, is able to go through his progressions, is going to able to do that much better than CJ Beathard is right now, because obviously he has 3 years of pro experience. He's made 17 appearances, 2 starts. Last year he's played 2 games while Tom Brady was suspended. And he was virtually flawless in both those games before getting injured, and then having Brissett take over. So I think that his skill set fits Shanahan's system very well because he goes through progressions, can read defenses, and also has a very compact and very abrupt throwing motion. So he can get rid of the ball fast, and he has a compact motion, the type of motion you want your quarterback to have, very kind of like Dan Marino-esque. Dan Marino had a very tight and quick release. It's obviously not at the speed or caliber of Dan Marino, but that's who I thought of when I was looking at his throwing motion, because it's tight and it's quick. And the only guy to do that probably better than anybody, is Marino. So it's a compliment. It's not a direct comparison, but that's what I see out of him. And so I'm excited. I'm not sure he might get on the field in the latter half of this half of the season, but I don't think we're going to see him for another about 2-3 weeks, possibly even more, because we're hurt on the offensive line. So if we throw him in there, he's going to pretty much be in the same scenario that Hoyer and CJ were in. And even though he has more tutelage than CJ, there's no telling what he'll do. Brian Hoyer's been in the league for 9 years and couldn't do anything. Granted, he lacks a lot less. He's a lot less talented than, we've already seen Hoyer's upside, which is he has none. And so, Jimmy G's upside is through the roof potentially. So it's just a matter of whether, you got to have the right pieces around him to make him work. And that's one of the reasons why we're not going to see him anytime soon. So CJ is going to take a beating for the next few weeks before Jimmy G gets in there. But I liked it. I liked it all the way around. I was very caught off guard. I mean, what were your thoughts?
My brain exploded. For everyone that follows us on social media, saw my immediate posts both on Twitter and Instagram. For the very first thing, it says, "My brain is exploding." It was exploding. That was insane. I'm sitting with Louis B. We're in San Francisco. We're both in San Francisco. Louis B and I are, and Louis B catches it first. Louis B is honest when he goes, "Oh my God, no way, bro, have you looked on Bleacher Report?" I'm like, no. He goes, "You're not going to believe it. You are not going to believe it." And I said, what? The 49ers traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I said, what? Are you fucking kidding me? And I grabbed my phone. I was like, if you're joking, I'm going to kill you. And I open it, and there it was, right there on Bleacher Report. Bam, Jimmy Garoppolo traded to the San Francisco 49ers. My head exploded. Super pumped. And then reality started to set in. The next couple days, I've listened to a lot of interviews, I've read articles, and reality started to set in. This is a midseason trade for a quarterback coming into a Kyle Shanahan system that is one of the most complicated offensive systems in the league, arguably and widely considered to be one of the best offensive systems in the league. He's never even seen it. Jimmy Garoppolo said himself, is going to be like learning a new language. It's not like he's going to just be able to get onto the field and start playing this week and just start chucking touchdowns for them. So that's the reality. It's like having a Christmas present that we can't open until probably around Christmas, literally. And so it was exciting, but then I had to get it was a bit sobering. You have to kind of get somber about it. You have to get a bit more sober about it and think about this. Think about this, GoldCast Nation. This guy's got to come in. He has to come into our town. He has to learn our system. He has to figure it out. And most guys have a whole preseason, off-season workouts. He doesn't have any of that. He's not going to get onto the field immediately. And like you said, Ray, maybe the last couple games. Here's the flip side, too. And this is going to sound really awful, and this is going to sound like I don't give a shit about like C.J. Beathard. But I do. But I'm saying the thing you don't want him going out there and then getting creamed because he's dealing with, a third-string tackle or a second-string tackle, offensive line that can't protect him. He's a valuable commodity. He's already been injured once before, and so this is a guy that you want to take care of. Granted, it changes a lot. I think it shows a lot of fight in Shanahan and Lynch. Obviously, the Patriots had reached out to the 49ers. That's what I'm hearing, is that the Patriots reached out to us, not vice versa. But they took advantage of the situation, and they didn't even blink. And I really do think that Jimmy Garoppolo, under this system, is going to do well. And like you said, there's been a lot of proven success when a quarterback is able to sit behind another proven quarterback and learn the speed of the game. Now he's coming into our system. It's going to take some time. And I think that's probably the hardest part, Ray. I think the hardest part is he can't just jump onto the field. This isn't like basketball, where he can just go out there. Or baseball, where he can literally the next day put on that uniform and start throwing the ball. He has to learn a whole system. From what I hear, football's pretty hard. That's the rumor.
I heard the same thing too.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you agree that's the toughest part, the patience, just being patient?
Yeah, I mean, and it might seem, and like you said, if indeed the Patriots did reach out to the Niners, then, you would think the reverse, like, oh, the Niners are kind of trying to be impatient. Well, I wouldn't say impatient, more like opportunistic, is how I would word it, because, this is a situation where we kind of come out pretty big with this move, because we also gave up Rashard Robinson within that same day, who, led the league in pass interferences. How many games did he lose or put the other team in terrific scoring position because of a pass interference call. I understand the upside and the talent he potentially has, but this is something where, hey, we get rid of this guy who's a huge liability for the team right now and it's not giving us a chance to win. And he's too undisciplined and too raw to really perform at the level that we're asking him to perform. So we're going to give him an opportunity somewhere else. And in exchange, we're going to get another 5th-round draft pick. So we have 2 fifths now. Now we back up to 9 picks, which means that most likely when we have stacked picks like that, we're most likely going to use that to trade and move up. We could still do something with our 1st-round pick too. So don't forget about that, because now that we do have a quarterback, that 1st-round pick becomes very valuable in terms of how we position ourselves in that 1st round of the draft. We can trade up to get multiple picks for that 1st-round pick, because if we end up losing, even more games and end up 2-14 again, or 3-13, or 4-12, we're going to have a really high sought-after pick. And teams that need a quarterback, which we won't need at least for the next year, a year and a half, 2 years, foreseeably, then we can use that pick to trade up and get more draft picks, which is something I think the Niners are going to definitely do.
It's really interesting because Kyle Shanahan has had his eye on Garoppolo from the beginning. And when he was back with the Cleveland Browns, the 2 quarterbacks that he had told the Browns that he was most keen on were Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr. Obviously, they didn't listen to either of them, and they got Johnny Manziel, which tells you a lot about the Cleveland Browns. But so this is a guy he's had his eye on the whole time. I think going back to the 1st-round draft pick, because this, the ripple effects of this one decision could be just life-changing for this team. There's so many different ways this could go. Do you think? So let's fast forward now. First of all, let me ask you this quick question. How many games do you think we even win? Do we even get to 4? That was my prediction, was 4. Your most optimistic prediction was between 6 and 8. Am I even right? Do we even get to 4?
I'm not sure. Things got really, if we still had our starting roster, I would say yeah. But the problem is we lost our two best tackles in Trent Brown and Joe Staley. They're going to be gone for a couple weeks. Thankfully, we have the bye within this next stretch of 3 weeks, and that's going to give them time to heal up, and which is great. So, in addition to that, that's the main reason why Jimmy's not going to be out there anytime soon, is because we were so depleted it's every team goes through this. Unfortunately, the Niners, the last couple years, especially this year, we've just been decimated by injuries. We also gave up Navarro Bowman, which does hurt us a little bit in the middle against the run, even though he's clearly lost more than just a step and is not himself. Well,
hold on, Ray. Hold on. But let me clarify. I want to clarify you on that. Navarro Bowman asked to be released. And I think some 49er fans have kind of been bitching about that. Don't forget, we didn't just let him go of our own accord. We didn't just ship him out of town. He has to be released. He left us. We didn't leave him. I think that's a big difference that should be always pointed out.
And I think if I was Kyle Shanahan, I'd kind of be rethinking that, because it's a business. I understand he's trying to be respectful to Navarro Bowman, as all-pro versus all-pro. But at the same time, this is a business, and you have to do what's best for the team. And letting him walk the way he did and not getting anything for it, I thought was maybe if we could give sort of some constructive criticism to John Lynch and maybe say, like, I don't agree with this move. That's probably the one thing he's done since he's been here that I didn't agree with entirely. Everything else, I thought every move he's made, I've liked. Even the small little moves, by signing people, to keep the competition fresh on the team and moving guys in and out of the roster week to week as guys succumb to injury and whatnot.
Yes. So now let's talk about this. So let's say we lose 2 games, we win 2 games, we go 2-14. Oh my God, that's so brutal. 2-14. Just the thought of it makes my stomach drop. We have a really high draft pick. That's the question now, right? I think no matter what, you've probably got to go O-line on that first pick. You have to go O-line. And I would say if we get a quarterback, it's in the 2nd or 3rd round again, like we did last year. What would you say to that?
I think that's accurate. We're either going O-line or linebacker. That would be my guess because we not only need some help in the middle, but we also need an edge rusher. Some people are saying to go defensive line. No, we don't need a defensive lineman anymore. What we need is an edge rusher because I think Aaron Lynch is probably on his way out. I certainly wouldn't re-sign him. And you can't rely, Elvis Dumerville is a third and long, pass rush situational guy now in his career. And so he's not an every down guy. We need an every down pass rusher. That's just the name of the game. So without that, we're going to have the same problems over and over and over again. So it's just, it's kind of awkward the way things are set up right now, because this is just like the situation that we've kind of put ourselves in, not just from bad draft choices and players just not working out that have players that, have potential, just haven't worked out. Tank Carradine can't stay healthy, came in with injuries. Same with Aaron Lynch. He's injury riddled. Eric Armstead, injury riddled. So we'll see how John Lynch's picks do. Foster hasn't been very good this year. He's been in and out of injuries. It's very unfortunate. I have a feeling he's going to end up being a very fragile player unless he proves me wrong. I sure as hell hope he does. Frank Gore came out with 2 knee surgeries out of college and was a huge risk. And now the guy has, he started, literally, I don't know how many games straight he started. And now he's pretty much a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, working his way up to top 5 all-time rushing. So you never know. Those are the unicorn players, but we need so much right now. It's ridiculous. And I think it starts with offensive line for sure. I agree with you. And I think Josh Garnett is probably another one I would continue to keep on the chopping block. Every time he gets on the field, he has an injury that sets him back, even though he's a high character person and he's got a good head on his shoulders and he was an excellent player in college. He's also been another one that just hasn't panned out. And that's just kind of the name of the draft. You roll the dice, you roll the dice, you roll the dice. And then so many guys, look how many first round draft picks, or at least draft picks with good upside, that we've selected that just haven't worked out. And we're just one team. This happens to every team. It's very, very difficult. The percentage chance of these players reaching their full potential on an NFL roster is so slim. So, we have Lynch and Shanahan have their work cut out for them. That's for sure.
I still believe that they're the most qualified duo to make it happen, though. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, guys, here's where it gets a little funky. If you want to continue on, listen. If not, we'll see you next week.
This is the best qualified tandem since John Harbaugh, was paired with Trent Baalke.
Yeah,
which seemed like it was Jim Harbaugh, which seemed like it was, going to work out at the time.
Yep. So I agree. There's definitely would probably go O-line. I would imagine they would still draft a quarterback somewhere in the later rounds. Obviously, defense is a huge factor that needs a lot of help. But like you said, we just need help all over the place, man. It's tough. It's slim pickings out there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's move on a little bit. I want to talk about a team that isn't in San Francisco. I want to talk a little bit about the death of the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. If you guys were watching the World Series, it was a great World Series. It was pretty insane. All year they've been talking about juice balls and just how intense how many home runs have been hitting and how batters have changed their swing and the fact that the Houston Astros kind of tanked their way to this championship. And where the Dodgers kind of they moneyballed it, they kind of Yankee balled it for the to get to this point, and these two teams come to a head. Ray, how good did it feel to watch the Los Angeles Dodgers lose in Game 7?
It's almost like watching a team I like win. That's how good it felt, and it's just a great feeling, If there was something I could get out of baseball this year, that was probably the next best thing outside of the Giants winning the World Series. So it was awesome. Very happy for the Astros. I've always actually liked the Astros. I liked them in the 90s when they had Jeff Bagwell Craig Biggio and Lance Berkman, known as the Killer Bees. They just never had the pitching to really go along with that great offense that they had, and in this case they did. Even picking up Justin Verlander in August to help carry them in, who's usually terrific in the first 3 rounds, but has never quite panned out in the World Series, and of course he didn't this year again. I think he lost both his games. He certainly lost Game 6 that forced this Game 7, so no surprise out of Verlander. Just can't seem to get it done on the biggest stage.
Well, with Verlander, they did this both times they played him. They got him to the 6th inning, and then they just wore him out. They just saw him enough times, and they ate him alive in the 6th, and they did that both times. I think really, though, it's interesting to watch those Los Angeles Dodgers, Roberts, manage his bullpen and how differently he did it than Bochy. Bochy was fly by the seat of your pants, go with the hot hands, look at the matchups batter by batter, pitcher by pitcher, and go with who you think can actually do it. If someone is hot and they're going, you let them go to the end of the game. And he really didn't do that. Roberts, they had their analytics. They really stuck to their game plans. They were very robotic in their pitching picks, and I thought that really was to their detriment. And I think it was really telling to see just the difference of having watched 3 years of Bochy just kind of masterfully play the bullpen. And I've said it a million times, I thought Bochy was the number one reason we lost against Chicago. I think we win against Chicago in Game 4 and we go back and forth to Game 5. I don't think Chicago gets out of there. I really don't. I thought it was his. He was the reason we lost that game, and I think watching Roberts through the World Series this year, it really kind of reaffirmed again just how important managing your pitchers is, and how you have to go with the hot hand, you have to go with what's working. You at times you have to abandon any game plan you had going in and go with what's happening right in front of you and using the matchups to your advantage. He had the inferior bullpen, but he was the superior manager, and that made the difference.
Well, he's going up another guy who's just better at this. AJ Hinch is a former A. For those guys who know your baseball history, not only is he a former athletic from the team in the 90s, but he's also a catcher, and catchers make the best baseball managers. And as we see once again, he's won it all because A, he knows pitching and he knows matchups and he knows how to utilize those pitching matchups to work in his favor. Even when their starting pitcher goes out within the first few innings after he didn't give up any runs, but he did hit 4 batters in the process. And that was enough for AJ Hinch to make the move to start dipping into his bullpen, pitcher after pitcher after pitcher. Sometimes, he brought in Liriano just to get one guy and then took him out. He kept doing, these are very Bochy-esque moves. They're very Scott, what's his name? The Angels manager, also a catcher who won it all. These guys make moves like this all the time they're incremental chess moves in order to get a guy. And, Roberts was trying to make similar moves, but it just wasn't enough because the damage had already been done. All they needed was, they didn't even have to score those 3 runs in the second inning to put them up 5-0. They could have still won at 2-1 because the Dodgers couldn't get past 1 run. So I thought it was brilliant play by AJ Hinch. Once again, another A, comes to the rescue and comes out big, giving the Astros their first ring. It was pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. Pretty epic series. Yes, and I agree. I think if you're a Giants fan, just to see the Dodgers up there, I did it. It felt like I was like living vicariously through the Astros and just rooting the whole time for the Dodgers to lose. And I live in Los Angeles, and I will tell you guys, nothing will make you hate the Dodgers more than when you live in the city for the Dodgers. It is the worst. It's the worst. God, I love living in LA, but that's the worst part, is just having to always deal with a bunch of Dodger crap in my face. So it was a really great win. Hats off to Houston. Hats off to the Astros. The city needed it too. I think that's like the other factor when your city's like ravaged by some type of hurricane or like devastating like natural event. I think it's like there's got to be like a betting that if you've got a good enough team, they might just rally and go all the way and deliver. I mean, they really pulled an 09 Saints here. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was nice to see them do that in that regard. Houston's been through a lot this year, but I don't necessarily think they need to win because of that. I think they just need to win because they need to beat the team that's not better than that.
Yeah, well, they said they outmanaged them. They had the inferior bullpen but a superior manager, and that is what made the difference. So congratulations to Houston, to all the Houston people who listen to the 40. I say when we're in season, it's so hard for me not to say 49ers Goldcast, even though we're called the Goldcast. I just go right back into muscle memory mode. But to the thousands of Houstoners that love to listen to the Goldcast and love to hear about San Francisco sports, we salute you. But Ray, I think that is about it. We'll have to see. Why don't we should get into a little bit of Warriors later. Real quick before we go, Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh man, what a hot mess that team is, huh?
Well, and it's going to get worse for them just because they just signed two. One is more serviceable than the other, but both of them are not going to last a season. And of course, I'm referring to Dwayne Wade and to a greater degree, Derrick Rose. Both these guys are not going to last. And in fact, they play the exact same position, which means you're eventually going to fall. This job is going to eventually fall back into the lap by default to J.R. Smith. And by then, they're not going to have the depth to really keep up. They might even not make the playoffs. But then again, the only other team that I thought was going to give them a run for their money was the Celtics. And without their star player that they just acquired, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make a deep run into the playoffs themselves. We'll have to see. I don't know.
But they're playing well, though. But Boston's playing well.
They're still
really
playing
well
great. They almost won that game. And the X factor that they have there, even though they lost a big component to their team, is of course Brad Stevens. I think he's a terrific coach that puts a really good emphasis on defense. He's very balanced, like Steve Kerr is. So I do expect them to make a run at the number 1 seed, number 2 seed still, despite the loss. So, and that's because of him. So, not surprised that they're doing well so far. We'll have to see if they can keep it up. And, but I think Cleveland will not be able to stay healthy to make a deep run this year.
I would be I wouldn't be surprised if they made it again, but I really think that this is probably the most vulnerable team that LeBron has had in a long, long time, since before the Miami Heat days. I feel like this is the worst team he's had in years.
Yeah.
Agree with? Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Well, so concludes another edition of the Goldcast. We are the voice of the faithful. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom! We'll be back to our regular schedule. We usually record Sunday nights after the 49ers game and release Monday or Tuesday. We should be back to that normal schedule this week. Sorry about the slight delay and the miss from last week. But we're back. Jimmy Garoppolo pulled us out of the shadows. Here we go. Soon begins the Jimmy G era. Jimmy G! We'll see you next time. Same Goldcast time. Same Goldcast channel.
This is the Goldcast.